Question of the week from the Naked Scientists.
Hello and welcome. I'm Phil Sansom, and it's time for a very exciting question. Time to put our quantum hats on as we hear from listener Meshnoon.
During science lessons, my teacher told me that when an electron excites, it jumps to another orbital around the nucleus.
Remember, electrons are tiny particles, and they move in patterns called orbitals.
When an electron jumps an orbital, you would expect that it can be found between the two orbitals, but my teacher told me that this is never the case. I cannot wrap my head around this. Does the particle just disappear in one orbital and pop up in the next one? And if so, is this instant, and is the particle in the other orbital still the same particle? Can you please help me understand this?
Meshnoon, don't worry, you came to the right place. Here's physicist Ankita Anirban.
Hi, Meshnoon.
She's here to answer what happens when an electron jumps to a new orbital.
From what you've said, it seems to me like you're imagining orbitals as concentric rings around the nucleus. It's probably the image you've been given in school. And this is a very useful model. But in fact, all models are actually just approximations, and sometimes they break down. And in this case, you found the fatal flaw of this particular model. As soon as you ask, is the electron sometimes between orbitals, which is a very fair question, there is actually no good answer. So we need to think about a different model. A more accurate way of understanding electrons is through a theory called quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics explains how particles like electrons work, and it uses probabilities to do so. So when we say an electron is in a certain orbital, it just means that it's quite likely to be in that general area. In quantum mechanics, when the electron gets some extra energy, it doesn't jump to an outer orbital, but as it revolves around the nucleus, its path is more likely to be further away from the center. This might seem quite abstract to you, but according to quantum mechanics, an electron isn't actually a tiny billiard ball hopping between orbitals. A better way of thinking about it is more like a little fuzz of mass and energy that's very hard to pin down. Again though, this is still just a model, which also has its limitations.
Here's another comparison from our forum. Chiral SPO says to think of the electron as a wasp. It can be calm or it can be angry. There is nothing in between, and it can instantly go from one to the other or back. Again, just a metaphor for something extremely complicated.
And even though I'm a physicist who deals with electrons daily, trying to actually imagine an electron is very difficult for me. And to be honest, it's also sent me down a philosophical rabbit hole.
Well, thanks to Ankita for diving in for us. Meanwhile, our next question comes from listener Ellie, who has been pointing and clicking and then wondering,
how do zip files work on my computer?
Can you at home help us unzip this question? Come on over to our forum, nakedscientist.com/forum. Or if you'd like to ask a question of your own, use the web form at nakedscientist.com/question. I'm Phil Sansom, and until next time, goodbye!
Music in the programme is sponsored by Epidemic Sound, perfect music for audio and video productions.